Things that is different about this time in history than any other is that every single day there is a new feeding frenzy around some total blow-it, some asinine mistake that the Bush administration has made and continues to stick with their man. Al, what do you think is the basis of all that? That can't just happen.
No, it just can't happen, and you know, you lose track after a while. I mean, you've got 9/11, when the FBI knew that there was Al-Qaeda representatives taking flying lessons, but they weren't interested in how to land the airplane, but they didn't connect the dots. You've got Katrina, you've got outing CIA agents, you've got the disaster in Iraq, and just one catastrophe after another. And it seems to me that the core cause of all of this is a lack of leadership from the top. And not only is Bush not leading properly, but his appointees in key positions are simply yes men. People who have been loyal to him, like Alberto Gonzales, for example, and who don't necessarily have any competency, like Mike Brown of FEMA. And instead of basing his appointments on competency, he bases them on loyalty. And that loyalty is just to say yes and just to agree with him and to never disagree with him. And that has led to all these problems.
Condoleezza Rice is a perfect example of a person. She seems like a very, very bright woman, very capable woman in some areas, but she sure as hell isn't a Secretary of State. We've never had a Secretary of State who has been weaker in that office at any time ever in the history of that office. And I got to tell you, if there's one thing that proves the point, it's Iran. You know, it's one thing to watch America's prestige throughout the world amongst our friends sink every single day. It seems like this is just a drumbeat of anxiety that the rest of the world has about us. But when the Middle East starts to embrace Iran more than ever before, not looking to America for leadership, not looking for us for a way out, but looking to the Iranians as their saviors, something has gone horribly wrong in the Department of State. When you read between the lines in Iran, the one, probably the only saving grace, the only reason that we're not dropping bombs on Iran right now is because the White House knows what the fallout would be, and the 140,000 American servicemen and women would be in harm's way within the hour. And let's not have any question as to whether or not we can't hold off a few groups of splintered Iraqi militias, much less an entire nation swarming right now.
No, and our army is stretched so thin by Iraq, and our funds are so exhausted that we can't go up against Iran or North Korea or anyone else. So countries that do pose a real threat, Iraq posed no real threat at all, they now get to go scot-free because we are so stretched so thin in Iraq. But I think what you mentioned, Mark, is really the biggest problem here, and that is the loss of United States prestige around the world. After 9/11, nearly every country supported us when we decided to go into Afghanistan. And we need these countries as allies because they can provide us with information about what Al-Qaeda is doing inside their borders, what they're shipping to the United States. And we have basically alienated every single nation in the world. In a survey done a few years ago in Europe, the majority of people held China in higher esteem than the United States, and that is just astounding to me.
It's, you know, and the bad news is it's a sad day for the United States, but it's a sad day for the world because the American people are the ones. I believe, and maybe this is just my sense of loyalty to the country, but I think that America has always come up with the just answers. In the past, the American people have always come up with provided the answers that were good for as many people as possible. I don't think that the American people have ever tried to take advantage of a situation. There may have been instances in the past that certainly our political leaders had, but I think the American people have always come up with just answers, and they've been willing to put up money but this is just wrong. When the world is looking to these other countries, we've just fallen so far, so fast, it's almost unthinkable.
Well, you know, the New York Times just came out with a survey saying that 32% of the people approve of the job that Bush is doing. Now, that's a very low figure in presidential politics, but my real question is in light of our diminished reputation in the world. Who are these 32%? Who are these people? How can they think he's doing a good job?
It seems to me every time I drive down the street, whenever I do see a Bush Cheney bumper sticker, it's some guy in a 20-year-old pickup truck, somebody that is just so moved by the name and this rah-rah. People have to realize there is fallout for whom you support, and these knuckleheads, these 32% that have never picked up a newspaper in their lives, evidently, or wouldn't know what a book was if somebody took it and hit them over the head with it, which is probably the best use they'll ever get out of it, still back this president.
Well, it seems to me that a lot of those people, you know, the blue-collar people that support George Bush, they buy into his anti-gun control stance or his fundamentalist religious approach, either anti-abortion or anti-stem cell research or whatever it may be. And it just seems to me that Bush is driving these issues solely to get these people to vote for him, and then at the same time he cuts tax on the wealthy, raises their taxes, and they pay it, and they're happy to do it, yet they elect him. But there's another group out there, and that is the Rush Limbaughs, the Bill O'Reillys, and people that listen to them and believe them, and obviously they still support Bush. What are they thinking?
And really, in my heart of hearts, I believe they believe they're getting another paycheck, and that's the only reason that they could ever support this moron. I think they've done America's greatest disservice. I think if Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers were around, they'd gang tackle them. These are the people that are despised. This is nothing more than paid propaganda. They don't believe it for a moment. Somebody that's addicted to hillbilly heroin doesn't have the highest callings of the nation in his heart. I'm certain of it.
You know, the traditional beliefs of Republicans that the government should be business oriented, should stay out of people's personal lives, that there should be low taxes. I mean, those are great attributes. I've been an independent for many, many years, and I believe in a lot of those things. I think that there's a lot of good ideas in there, but it doesn't seem like that's the Republican Party anymore at all.
At all. You don't have to look very far. Even Bush's father surrounded himself with people who understood their job. I think Dick Cheney at that point was a different person in many ways, and they did have America's best intentions at heart. The whole idea, the way that they went about the war. I don't believe that the first war made much sense in retrospect. I think we got taken then as well. But at least they had America's interests at heart. Yeah. That's just no longer the case.